Welcome to the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast, where we explore the latest in enterprise trends, tech, and strategy with the top leaders shaping the future.
Hi, we welcome you to a podcast on stage with enterprise thought leaders. My name is Kanika, and I'm the managing editor of Enterprise Talk, which is our enterprise technology publication. It's also our flagship publication. We're engaging conversations with global thought leaders and industry experts, which reach over 1.3 million business leaders worldwide. Cybersecurity leadership is facing a critical inflection point with just 7,523 CISOs in the US and 32,000 globally. Over 36 million businesses operating stateside. Most organizations are left underprotected at the top. Greg Sullivan, CISSP, founding partner of CIOSO Global and former Global CEO at Carnival Corporation, has joined Technology Partners Executive Coaching Bench to help bridge this gap, not just with skills, but with strategic mindset and leadership development. He's coaching current and aspiring CIOs, CISOs, and other senior technology and cybersecurity professionals through the pressure points where security meets business risk. A bit about Greg before we start. Previously, Greg served as a senior vice president and global chief information officer at Carnival Corporation. He also held leadership roles as CEO and CTO at Global Velocity, focusing on enterprise and cloud security. Greg holds a BS in Systems Science and Mathematics from Washington University in St. Louis and is a certified information system security professional, which is what I said earlier, CISSP. So welcome to the show, Greg. It's great to have you here with us today. Looking forward to this conversation with you today.
Thank you, Kanika. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start with the first question. The pipeline for skilled CISOs is shrinking. What do you think needs to be done about it?
So it's an interesting question, and it may not be the pipeline that's shrinking. It's that the need is growing faster than the pipeline is maturing. So there's some interesting things going on in the cybersecurity talent market right now. One is, as you pointed out with the numbers you mentioned earlier, there's a huge gap between the number of people who are serving as CISOs or even qualified to be CISOs and the number of companies that need them. And it's not that every company, especially the smaller ones, need full-time CISOs. We need to distribute that talent across a broader base. Part of what my company's mission is here to help with at CIOSO. But I'm also seeing at the same time, I'm hearing more from recent graduates or current graduates that are looking for cybersecurity positions, and there seem to be fewer available for them. So it's so the demand seems to be stronger at the higher level of the talent pool, and not as strong as it once was at the lower level. So that's another form of the gap that we're noticing.
Yeah, and what do you think can be done about it to remedy the situation?
So I think we do a good job as an industry in recognizing these. ISC2 does work surveys, position surveys, and they do a good job of helping to understand. It's I think part of it is the application of tools and capabilities. There's another thing happening, and we should talk about, and that is the practitioners that are in these positions are getting burnt out. They're overworking, and the threat actors still seem to have an advantage. We still seem to, and we can talk in more depth about this. We still seem to be tolerant of vulnerable software that we pay for, and so we're constantly trying to keep up. And even the people that are doing the good work right now are getting overwhelmed. So it's about managing the work day and the work tasks and making sure that we're not overworking the people that we have. But I sure still see it a lot.
So just out of curiosity, Greg, the people who reached the position of a CISO, a CISO, have been at it for the last maybe couple of decades, maybe 20 years, 15 years at least. With such radically different cyber threats that organizations face today, How do they stay up to date or updated? That's a better word, to be able to meet these threats. You think certifications help? You think experience helps? What is it that they need to do to be able to handle the threats which are coming in now? Because they're not the same as the threats that used to exist 10 years ago, 5 years ago even.
Yeah, I see a few things. So first of all, I think the certifications are incredibly important, and I do appreciate the manner in which we work together as a group of cybersecurity professionals to maintain high standards in those certifications and constantly updating the certifications. I do think this is a very important part of all that we do. I've often said over the decades of my involvement in cybersecurity that the threat actors are much better collaborators than we are. And so we need to be as effective at collaborating as they are. Actually, we need to be more effective at it. And I think our certification body does a really a fantastic job of that. It requires us to stay educated. It requires us to work together, and it provides opportunities for us to do all of those things. So the certifications, I think, are critical, particularly the CISSP. There are others, and there are pathways to CISSP for those who are younger and less experienced, because CISSP does require experience. So you work your way towards it. I encourage anyone that's entering the field to determine a path for that for them. So then the rest of it is being engaged after earning the CISSP. We're required to be engaged to a certain degree through the continuing professional education credit requirement. That's okay. And that's important. And we need to do those. And there are plenty of educational opportunities. But it's the engagement with one another and the work that we do together that makes us more effective as a group. And it also will it'll raise the capability of those who are newer to the field having engagement with those who've been around longer. So to me, it's that engagement and collaboration that really is our opportunity. And thankfully, I see a lot of willingness to do that and as an industry.
And what role do you think certification programs like ISC2 and inter-organizational collaboration, like you just spoke about, it does play a great role. So what role do you see ISC2 playing in this recovery of the CISO pool as such, and having more people out there, better qualified people out there, smarter people for the CISO pool itself?
So, in my view, Kanika, it's the centerpiece of our work together. ISC2 is, and I really appreciate the job that they do. They communicate, they engage, they listen, and I say they, but they are us. We are all in this. We are all in this together. I appreciate the approach to governance of the group. And as I said earlier, we have to be better at collaboration and engagement together than the threat actors are. And ISC2 is for us the centerpiece of all of that. And so, we are held to high professional standards by our involvement there, and the expectations are high. The bar is high to get in, and the expectations are high to stay in. And I think it's really a critical part of our strategy. Engagement, involvement, not just with one another, but with regulatory bodies, with government for regulation purposes. Regulation is important, and consistency there is important. So our voice matters in those conversations. So I see it as really the center of helping to address the gaps, the talent shortfalls when they exist. They will ebb and flow over time, and ISC2 is an important part of helping us to see those coming and prepare for those.
Right. So when we started this conversation, you made a comment that you do feel you do see a lot of new talent coming in, but they are not getting enough opportunities. And on the other hand, there are a lot of empty spaces. The talent pool at the top is not nearly big enough. So, what do you think leadership should be looking for when recruiting cybersecurity talent? Certainly not for entry positions, but for senior and probably even CISO level positions. What do you think would be the basic ask, apart from, of course, the certifications and the qualifications and experience as well? What do you think puts them apart?
Yeah, this is an interesting dilemma for us. So it's how do they get the experience if they don't get the jobs? And um, we're the requirement for specialists in the cybersecurity field seems to be diminishing, or at least as cybersecurity skills are democratized across smaller and even medium-sized businesses. So at the largest organizations, we still need specialists. We still need a vulnerability management person. We still need a patch management person. We still need a GRC person. We still need an identity and access management person. And even within those, sometimes we need specialists, but these are only in the largest organizations. But back to your numbers, where we have 7,500 CISOs and 30 something million organizations that probably need this. Uh, what, what I would encourage the new arrivals to the industry is to be pretty broad in your capability, because the smaller organizations can't afford nor have the need for a full-time specialist in each one of those categories. So it would be good to come to the table with a broad set of skills and be able to apply those so that even the smaller organizations can afford the talent to be secure and compliant.
Would you also say that they need to be more conversant with the newer, more innovative threat actors and tools which are also driving, you know, modern threats, if I may say so? So maybe AI tools or networking tools which were not there earlier. Those things are also required, right?
So, Kanika, one of the things that amazes me the most about our industry is the constant arrival of new capabilities. It's an indication that we're still in an ongoing battle with threat actors, and we still have work to do. And measure it however you like. The number of startups, the number of acquisitions that occur, but look at the amount of investment that continues to go into cybersecurity startups. It's really pretty amazing. And there isn't a day that goes by that really, literally a day that goes by that I don't learn about a new cybersecurity startup somewhere. And they're doing very important things, and they're solving problems that either haven't been solved yet or are in need of more effective solutions. So anybody, whether you're a seasoned practitioner or a newcomer, you have to have the ability to constantly consume and understand these new capabilities. And not only do you need the ability to, but you need the curiosity to want to. And so you have to spend the time doing it. At my company, we carve out for everyone a specific amount of time every month, and we say, learn about something new. Find a new capability and do it. And so now many of these new capabilities are AI based, but I would say we're just at the very beginning of the application of AI to defending and protecting and keeping compliant our organizations. I think the threat actors are better at applying AI right now to the business of attacking us, and I think we've got to get better. So I'm taking a call later this week from someone who said he's figured out how to use AI to identify vulnerabilities, in the software that we purchase. Typically we find out about them once they become once there's an exploitation. So that's an indication the threat actors are more effective at using AI or whatever tools they're using to identify those vulnerabilities before we do. We should be working to get ahead of that. So there's still plenty of opportunities out there for AI. Now, AI's been helpful in managing the massive amount of data that the log files generate and things like that. It's been helpful in training the humans for phishing and vishing and things like that. So, but we still have so much more opportunity for it. So I'm real encouraged. The young college graduates are coming out now with some AI education along with their cybersecurity skills. And when those start to come together with a larger number of people, I think we're going to see some. I'm optimistic.
That is true. One more point which you brought up earlier. I just had a question on it. When you say that organizations may not need a full-time CISO, do you think the concept of a fractional CISO is becoming popular, or it should become popular, because then you can utilize really good skills in gigs, sort of an arrangement? Does that work?
It does work, and I think it's important to do it. And there's always there's always more to it than the basics. And this is where the education and the certifications really play a role. It's you have to have a deep and broad set of skills. And for those of us who've been doing this for a while, that comes a little bit more naturally. We've got to help the young ones coming in, expand their breadth of knowledge, but also their depth. It's just required. So I do think the fractional CISO is an important part of helping. There aren't enough of us. I can't imagine there will ever be enough of us. But what I hate to see are small and medium-sized businesses without any support at all, and they are just as vulnerable and have as much, if not more, at risk, because they may not have the resiliency to recover from an attack. They may not even understand necessarily what that means. So we really, as an industry, need to be helpful to organizations of all sizes at all times, and be accessible and have ways. There are products that we can implement to monitor certain things, capture log files, consume log files. But if there's no one there to consume that, digest that, and act upon that, then the tools really aren't as helpful. So there's still a lot to do, and we're all in this together. And I just think that it doesn't matter how small your organization is, you operate with cyber risk, with IT resiliency risk, and there are people who can help you manage that risk effectively.
So that is for a CISO who can be there when required, or fight at particular times alongside festivals, times like that. But a very traditional question is, in an organization which has set roles for what we call CXOs, the CIO, the CMO, the CISO, CFO, and so on and so forth. Do you think a CISO should have a seat at the board? Because keeping an organization secure from cyber threats is almost as big a role as making money for the organization, because it can just get everything crashing down. One attack and it can be really, really debilitating. So do you think a CISO should get a seat at the board? And if yes, then what can they do to achieve that?
So this is a great question. So at the board level, and I serve on a few boards, an important function of the board is to understand the risk associated with the operation of the business, not the day-to-day role of operating the business, but the risk associated with ongoing and continuous operations of the business and other types of risk as well. So cybersecurity risk is among the greatest risks that we have. And I've mentioned before also IT resiliency. So in the event of a cyber incident or even a natural disaster of some sort, how do we recover from an IT perspective? So in that sense, the CISO has a critical role in helping to understand, interpret, and communicate the risk associated with running the business in the way we choose to do it from a cybersecurity and IT perspective. So if the CISO does not have a seat at the board, someone on the board has to have the understanding and awareness of what I always say, the CISO should learn the language of risk. There's a certain language of risk. To get certified, there's certain parts of risk management and risk and having risk conversations. Risk professionals know how to have these conversations. They know what metrics matter, what KPIs, what KRIs matter, and things like that. We as security professionals have to understand and be able to speak that language of risk in a way that boards and business leaders can understand. Not every organization will aspire or necessarily achieve or need to achieve the highest level of cybersecurity maturity as measured by one of our various cybersecurity maturity models. But just take the NIST cybersecurity maturity framework, for example, and you can achieve a level 5 on everything. And I've worked with companies that said, I want 5 on everything. I said, well, you're not operating a nuclear missile silo or a large bank. So that's not a worthy aspiration. And it's hard to explain to people. There's a reasonable place. But so our job as cybersecurity professionals and IT professionals is to help those responsible for overseeing and managing the risk that an organization operates under or chooses to assume, that we can speak in the language of risk, translate our log file interpretations, our vulnerability management, and our threat detection, and our backend database monitoring, and all these things that come here and there in compliance requirements, and put all those in the language of risk. And I think as we start to do that, then we'll be more qualified to be at the board level and have those conversations. And also, as members of the boards, help other board members to interpret what we're hearing from the IT and cybersecurity professionals, so that we can reasonably assess the risk that we're operating under.
So essentially, what you're saying is that the CISO has to speak the language of dollars. What are the value terms of risks associated with a cyber attack? How can we prevent?
So right, and so when I speak about the language of risk, there are risk metrics, key risk indicators, KRIs, and that can be translated into dollars, and there are opportunity costs associated with making investments or not making certain investments. I remember I had a boss once who told me, I will not get the budget of Bank of America, but you will keep us secure. So, I just think having the conversation in those contexts really help to so now we're having a conversation that everyone can understand. We take KRIs, translate those into risk indicators that translate into dollars, and then so we have to be able, as cybersecurity professionals, be able to have conversations at that level. And those are reasonable things to expect of our cybersecurity professionals by board members and management teams.
Correct. So that is the last of my questions. I have to thank you for your time and your insights.
Thank you for joining us for the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast. Please do follow us on social media and subscribe for more ideas and insights. Until next time.